is that everything in the Sunnah, it actually doesn't just benefit us in the Akhirah, it benefits us in the dunya as well.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This is your host, Dr. Rend, and I'm really excited today to be introducing a very special guest who is a dear friend of mine. Asma Farooq Sheikh is a Muslim South Asian American who was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. She is a community contributor who is passionate in grassroots efforts, from working with youth to interfaith initiatives to advocacy in school communities. She's the founder of the nonprofit organization Chi-Town Muslima Athletics for Muslim women and athletics director of Blessed Bonds Fit BB Fit for Muslim girls. She is a licensed professional counselor working with adolescent populations struggling with depression and anxiety. She currently resides in the Chicago area with her supportive husband and 3 children. MashaAllah. Thank you so much for being here today, Asma.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
Walaikum assalam rahmatullah. I'm excited to have you. So there's so much to talk about. One of the first things I wanted to kind of get into, something that was mentioned in your bio, was the way that you founded the Chi-Town Muslima Athletics organization, commonly known as CTM. So when I met you and got to know you, it was an ongoing program at that time. So I wasn't involved in it from the beginning when it first started. And I'm really curious to learn how you ended up founding an organization that focused on athletics for Muslim women. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I think before I even get to that part, going back to, I think, a lot of the voids that I've experienced throughout my childhood and adolescence, it comes down to the fact that, unfortunately, I wasn't given a lot of opportunities when it came to the fiscal investment through athletics. And as I became a mother, I have a daughter, and I wanted something different for her. So with that being said, I am an individual where I don't like to complain too much. And if I see gaps, then we must do something, right? We must do something. And I was looking, throughout my community, trying to find an opportunity for my daughter where she was amongst Muslim girls her age and where they could invest in their physical well-being. And unfortunately, I did not find that. And so, subhanAllah, I was able to collaborate. As I shared in my bio, I'm very, very big about not recreating the wheel and instead trying to see what organizations are out there that we can collaborate and that I could try to pitch in and help. And that's where Blessed Bonds comes in. Hafida Leila Osman, she is a teacher of mine, and she is also a mentor of mine. And, I asked her if I could do a athletics organization for Muslim girls. And he was immediately like, let's do it. So long story short, it actually started through BB Fit. That's been running since 2014, the Blessed Bonds fitness wing. And, alhamdulillah, we've served over 1,000 girls since today. And there were mothers through that experience for their daughters who were saying, can you do this for us? And I really thought about it, and I was like, gosh, I don't know if it's going to work. I just don't know if it's going to work. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. It was something that I needed myself. As I shared, growing up, I had a lot of voids as well, not being able to participate in sports as much as I had hoped. And, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala planted this opportunity. He blessed me with a daughter, right? And I did not want her to experience these same voids. And there are gems in our community like, Hafsa Leila, and we collaborated. MashaAllah, something beautiful came out of it. And something even more beautiful came out of it, because now we're able to not only serve the youth and but also their mothers. And so that is how CTM Athletics grew. We were really a handful of women that came together. I want to say like every Thursday night. And it started off with 5 women who consistently showed up.
What year was that?
That was 2017.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And those 5, 6 women, they stuck by me through the good times, through the rough times, and those are the same women that are on our board today. So that is Cliff Notes version, Dr. Rend, in terms of how CTM Athletics started. And alhamdulillah, we have close to 300 women in our athletics community right now with various programs that we are able to organize throughout the year.
MashaAllah, it's so exciting to see how so many of our Muslim organizations have started out of an area of need. That was kind of, and it's interesting because that was my experience as well with founding the Islamic School Carriers of Light. I was looking for a program for my daughter, exactly the same thing. We looked all over and just trying to find a place where she could memorize the Quran in an atmosphere that I felt happy for her to be in and comfortable. And we just couldn't find it. So we started our own little program. And then, of course, that grew in the similar way that, mashallah, you're describing that CTM grew. So tell me a little bit about as you and I have talked about finding happiness and joy through prayer, purpose, and people. Tell me a little bit about how you feel CTM offers that to you personally in your life, not just as a participant in the sports and activities and the sisterhood. I'd love to hear about that, but also as a founder. And obviously, we know that people who found organizations have to often pour their heart and soul into them as they're bringing them from the ground up. And a lot of time and energy goes into that. And that can be very rewarding. It can be very challenging. It can be taxing, especially on a mother and a wife and people who have other responsibilities in their household. So can you tell me a little bit about how that's impacted you and your family?
I think a good bulk of my life has been thus far mothering, and being a mother, that has changed me in a very profound way. And as I was doing community work, because of my children, right, you get involved, you do things for your children. I was also starting to learn to love to work with people. You see, for me growing up, I actually am a individual that has strong intrapersonal effectiveness, meaning I can problem solve in my own mind, right? And I don't need to like talk to a lot of people. That's why I ended up going into research. I enjoyed working by myself. However, working with people because of my children, be it in the school community, be it within the mosque community, be it within interfaith community, I was starting to recognize that it was truly serving a purpose greater than my family. And that was ultimately for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I felt this emptiness, to be quite honest, because there was this moment in my life where I didn't want to just have this role of a daughter, a wife, a sister, right? A mother. I needed to do something more, and that had to go down to the fact of what was serving my purpose in this world. There is this beautiful hadith that my teacher, Hafda Leila Osman, had shared with me, and I'd like to share that. The Prophet ﷺ said that he said, take advantage of 5 before 5, right? Your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before poverty, your free time before you get too busy, and last but not least, your life before death. This shook me because I thought to myself, I don't have much time left as being young. What am I doing, right, with my youth? To serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, besides all these various roles that He has blessed me with, right? what am I doing with my health? My physical well-being, right? What am I doing with that before I'm tested with my health? What am I doing with the wealth, with the risk that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me before I'm given with the test of sickness, right? The free time that I had, yes, I was a busy mother. I was doing many things for the community. However, there was still this void, subhanAllah. There was still this void. I'm alive today, and I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. And so this hadith took me. And I said, what gifts did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me? Truly, what did he give me? He gave me, you know, in the opportunity to be a mother. And as I shared, that has changed me. I have become now an individual where, alhamdulillah, I think that I can work with people well, right?
Definitely. I
Interpersonal
would attest to that.
effectiveness.
Mhm.
It's a challenge, right? And the reality is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't make us all the same for a reason, right? And so taking perhaps that strain, taking perhaps the strains of loving to utilize our body in healthy ways, in productive ways, where our limbs will, inshallah, be testament, right, to our creator of how we utilized it in serving him. That's where I said to myself that I need to be doing what I have in this world with the gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me, with the time that he has given me, with the help that he has given me, right? What am I doing to serve him on a larger scale? And so prayer, did a lot of prayer, did a lot of istikhara. And yes, you're absolutely right. Grassroots efforts takes a lot of work because you have no money, right? You have no money and you have a vision, and what you need are women who see that same vision, who are going to support you in that same vision and understand the purpose. And the purpose is not serving one another. Yeah, sure. That is yes, one of the goals, right? However, the ultimate purpose is we're not getting paid by anyone. This is all for serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so team of volunteers, as I shared, 5, 6 women consistently just showing up to our games, consistently just really trying to help me. We have a WhatsApp group, right? It started off with just my friends and these 5 women and their friends, right? People would leave the group like, what is going on in here? And yeah, it's disheartening. And in the long run, right, now there's more and more people every single year that want to join this group. It's a community. It's a community of like-minded Muslim women, right? Ultimately serving the primary purpose, and that is serving our creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So prayer, people, purpose. How does that all come together? And that's just kind of, how CPM Athletics really tries to fulfill in those capacities.
It's been really, from what you've shared, it's been really interesting to see how this organization grew and this community grew in a relatively short period of time. And as you said, there's a lot of interest in it. The WhatsApp group has 200-300 people in it. The community is about, you said 300. Is that correct?
Yes, about that. Mm-hmm.
So because the primary thing that this community does together is sports and athletics and that sort of thing, not so much fitness per se, but more actual sports, what do you think draws Muslim women to this particular community when so many of us are busy and pulled in a million directions? And a lot of the women, not all, but definitely a lot of them are also moms and have families. And many of them I notice are also professionals. They have jobs. So they're doing a lot of things. What draws them to make time to go play sports with a bunch of other women?
Yeah, great question. I think number one is that I never wanted this to be a exclusive athletic environment, meaning if you have never played a sport, right, that doesn't mean that you are not welcome here. And so I think that is the exception in terms of, you know, why CTM athletics is very unique in this regard. We take all ability, you know, levels, and to me that is primary number one rule. Whenever we're coaching, whenever we're training new coaches, we really want to make sure that we are instilling the CTM values of cultivating a healthy learning and healing environment. Many women in our athletic space, as you shared, are, you know, coming from various backgrounds. The age group can range from age 23 all the way. I think our oldest CTM athlete, I think, is like 54, 55. And we've all have experience, right? We've all experienced grief in some way, somehow, some form. And this is my ultimate vision, is to keep this a healthy space, right? A healthy learning space. So women are not going to come out of these like games and these athletic environments like hard on themselves, right? They're going to come out of it feeling refueled, that I made connection with another Muslim woman, right? That I was able to laugh and I was able to cheer, right? And I was actually able to feel uplifted coming out of this experience. That is my hope. Whenever I have a sister coming out of it feeling like, ooh, this is becoming stressful, that's when I have to take a pause. That's when the coaches, we all come together and we take a pause and we go back to the CTM values again, right? What are we trying to do? We want our sisters to invest, right, in their physical health. However, we also want them to invest in their social well-being, their mental well-being, their emotional well-being, right? And most importantly, the spiritual well-being. So always going back to our values, that's what keeps us grounded at the end of the day, and asking ourselves what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finds pleasing and what behaviors does he find displeasing.
My perspective of, you know, something that's very unique about this community is that there are not a lot of communities for Muslim women to play sports. There are opportunities for exercise, you know, other things, but actual organized sports is unique. But also in a place where you're playing with only other Muslim women, there's privacy, and there is Islam integrated into everything that's being done. I found that to be very unique. So you've emphasized multiple times the spiritual growth, you know, the Islamic element. But I think that is very strong in this community, and it's very motivating for many people. And I found that to be very unique. So a lot of times Muslims gather to do secular things like sports, but they do them in a secular way. And it's really neat when you can integrate Islam, which is a deen, it's a whole way of life. And for many of us, it's part of every aspect of our life. So to try to divorce that of ourselves when we go into a certain environment feels very inauthentic for many of us. And we often do that, just like people code switch when they, you know, when they're in different environments. We often are used to doing that in our workplaces and whatever, to whatever degree we feel is necessary or appropriate. In order to maybe not make others feel uncomfortable or to fit in or whatever may be and especially in a professional environment, in a country that's so focused on the separation of church and state. So, you know, when we're hanging around with other Muslims, whatever it may be that we're doing, it's really nice to be fully ourselves in that Islamic element. And I found that for many people who haven't experienced that before, it's also very inspiring for them in their own path and their own journey in their deen. And that's one of the things I really like. And I'm sure you have a lot of stories to share on that, and I'd like to hear them. But there's one other piece I want to throw in here that I think makes this community unique. And I think that's your involvement in it. Obviously, you're the founder, you have the vision, you've shared that vision and inspired others to join you in that vision. But one thing that you have, and I want to dig into this a little bit and see sort of how this developed, is you have a natural coaching style and this sort of motivational speaker style. And it works really well, mashallah, and it really impacts people. And you have the ability to go on the field or go on the court and speak to people in a way that pushes them, it challenges them, but it also motivates and encourages them. It doesn't make anyone feel bad, but it's sort of like walking that fine line. And I'm just so curious, how did you develop that? Like, were you always that way? Have you nurtured that somehow? It's very unique.
Well, thank you so much for the compliment. I appreciate that, and I'm honored to receive that from you. Growing up, I was a very strong-willed individual. If you ask my mom, we definitely did butt heads a lot because I think that she didn't really understand why I was so passionate about sports. She just never got it. I would be outside playing for hours and hours and hours, and she never understood. She's like, you need to be inside. You need to help me in the kitchen, right? So I just unfortunately fought oftentimes against the social norms, for South Asian typical, stereotypical family roles. And the reality is, becoming a mother has truly made me an individual where I have learned to be more compassionate, be more understanding, and listen more. Being a mother truly has changed me in the most incredible ways. It's a great gift. It's a great responsibility. And I knew that I wanted to be the best role model for my children. And if that meant that I would have to, yes, harness that strong-willedness, right? And also be compassionate, then that's the coaching that you actually see in me today. The motivational part, right? Being around my mother, who was actually an incredible coach at home. My father worked the evening shift, and so my mom, she was a single mom in the evening. And I understood why she would feel sometimes overwhelmed with 5 kids, with 5 different personalities, right? Limited resources. It was a lot. It was a lot. And only now, right, do I truly understand in terms of why sometimes I was the individual who was not being understanding and who was not being compassionate. And just the many roles and the many experiences that you experience as a human being. I hope that all of us can truly appreciate those experiences and understand and reflect and recognize, why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with mother like this, and a father like this, and siblings like this, and children like this, and a spouse like this, and whatever that is, right? Why? Asking ourselves why, and to reflect upon it, and to then continuously pray about it, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make me how you want to see me, right? How is it that you could, inshallah, put me in more experiences that you will see me in the light that is pleasing, that on the day of judgment, inshallah, that I will, inshallah, be able to enter in the gardens of paradise. That is motivational for me. Even just talking about that, right? That is motivational. And so on the field, on the court, reminding myself that even when my patience is being tested, to come back to faith, to come back to God, to come back to, right, what are the CTM values? What is the vision? And as I shared with you, I don't want any woman coming out of our experiences feeling abandoned, feeling unheard, feeling hurt, feeling ignored. That's not what I want for our ladies at all. So I have to be very mindful as well in my coaching style. And so, softness, with firmness, and really setting the boundaries within the Islamic realm. That is, in my opinion, the Prophet ﷺ, right? He was the perfect example of that, right? And to follow his example and to follow his leadership style. We have so many incredible companions to study their lives as well, right? So this is nothing new. It's just if we want to learn about how they went about, interacting with other human beings, the individuals that they adored and the individuals that were their enemies. And so, long story short, to your question.
SubhanAllah, I think it's really inspiring and cool and unique and interesting, probably for our listeners, especially young Muslim women, to hear that somebody who wants to attain Jannah has chosen to do it through sports. So a lot of us think that, okay, you're this religious Muslim woman and your goal is to please Allah and to attain Jannah, and you're going to do it by staying home and reading Quran. Not that there's anything, I'm not trying to throw shade on that. I love to stay home and read Quran. But but not everybody is going to be able to do that because we all have different temperaments and because we all have different personalities and different styles. So this is something really inspiring, I think, to show young Muslim women that you may have a certain passion that others might find strange. Like your own mom was not understanding, nor was she encouraging, nor was she nurturing you in that particular element of the sports. Maybe she was nurturing you, obviously, in many other ways. But you still found a way to take that specific passion and turn it into purpose and turn it into a path by which you can try to better yourself and try to earn Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, gain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure and improve your status and your rank in the akhirah, inshallah. And I pray that Allah accepts that from you, because everything that we do can be a challenge. All of these things, they involve jihad and nafs. They involve this striving against our own self, our own ego, and we're trying to be a better person. And it might look like just a bunch of fun to go out there and play sports, but every element of it, especially you as the founder and the organizer, every element of it involves challenges. And I see you when you're out there. So for those that don't know you, oftentimes you will coach a sport. So you might coach the softball team, let's say, for example, but you're also playing on the team, as all the coaches do in CTM, which is pretty unique. But you're also running the entire program. And so I've noticed often your eyes are sort of darting around, like you're watching your team, you're competitive. I mean, anyone who knows you knows that. You want to win. But you're also always watching. I've seen this in you to make sure that everyone else is okay as well. That's a lot. That takes a toll on a person. There's a lot of expenditure that goes into making sure everything is okay. And this element you have a very emphasized very many times today of making sure that nobody feels left out, nobody feels that they don't belong, takes a lot of extra effort. So I can only imagine that as much as it's fulfilling, it's also very taxing on you. Were there ever times when it was too taxing on either you or your family, or maybe your husband or your children felt dismayed by the time or effort that went into this athletics community?
Sure. With any type of organization, there's definitely, hurdles along the way. I think, probably the first couple years, I was starting to feel burnt out because I felt that it was necessary for me to be at every single event. Like I had to be there to ensure that everything would go well. And I slowly recognized that it was affecting, my family as well. That's when I had to talk to my vice chair, right? And I was thinking, how do I go about letting go? It actually is not that I didn't trust the individuals, right, that were supporting me. It was a big part of me. I had to learn to let go. I had to learn to trust others, that they're going to do just fine without me being there. And so that probably took, I want to say, post-pandemic. where, you know, we were starting to find more and more talented sisters who are able to embody the CTM values, such as yourself, you know, and that helped tremendously. And that's when I was starting to let go, because it didn't require me to physically be there. I could do admin stuff behind the scenes. We have an incredible treasurer who has been a huge support when it comes to finances, when it comes to, you know, a lot of the behind the scenes admin work. That's Arshia Ahmed, and it's an incredible team. And it started with me. When I say strong willed, there's a reason why I keep saying strong willed, and it's hard for me to let go about, because I feel like sometimes in order for things to happen a certain way, it's got to happen with my eye. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught me so many great lessons. And that is a big lesson that he has taught me through being, you know, the founder of this organization, is you have to allow others to help you, especially when they keep telling you, let us help you, to listen, right? They're there for a reason. So letting go was probably a big challenge, but also I was trying to see that the athletic community was benefiting. We were able to provide more athletic opportunities. We were able to, you know, even when it comes to the financial, you know, piece of it all, my treasurer, she's like on top of it, on top of it. That's not a strength of mine. And so we have a team with, mashallah, so many incredible minds, so many incredible strengths, and all at the end of the day, we have the same genuine intention, and it all comes back to, again, faith.
Yeah, subhanAllah, that resonates with me, because one of the articles I've written on the Well Circle blog is titled "Your Success is in Who You Surround Yourself With." And I was inspired to write that because of the team that I work with in the OR when I'm in surgery. You know, so as you know, I'm a surgeon, I'm an ophthalmologist, and in surgery, a lot of the focus is put on the surgeon. You know, they're kind of the main person. It's from the smallest things, like when you walk in the room, the surgeon gets to pick the music they play in the OR, and, you know, to the way that everybody sort of revolves around the needs of the surgeon and making sure that they're being met. And I feel that it's actually the team that makes the surgeries so successful. I mean, of course, it's the surgeon because you're doing it with your own hands, but the team is critical. And that, you know, that really resonates with me, what you're saying, because the team around you, and we often attract our own team. A good leader can bring together a good team and bring out the best in each person. And also a good leader has to learn how to delegate, as you've correctly stated, and to know when to let go and when to empower others. And those are very tough things that a lot of people don't realize. Of course, there are a lot of different leadership styles, and, you know, there are a whole list of different leadership styles if you read about it. But I think that one of the most beautiful leadership styles is that more collaborative style, where everybody has an important role to play, and the team works well when everybody's playing their role. So I can see why you found some relief and some success in allowing others to rise to it, and allowing them to support you so that you could use your skills in the ways that are most valuable. So that's really exciting. I'd like to share a little bit about the way that I got involved with the CTM community. And as you know, I was somebody who played softball growing up my whole life, since I was very young. And I played all the way through high school on the team. And I then stopped doing many of my sports and activities. So through college, of course, I was busy with college, and, you know, I did some things for fun in terms of sports, but then I went to medical school and I got married and I had a baby you know, right when I finished medical school, as I was in my intern year, and then residency and children. So for many years, I didn't do any sports. I actually didn't do much exercise at all. I was actually quite a wreck, very bad shape physically in those years. And one of the things I really missed was softball. So I got back into tennis. That was one of my main sports. Tennis, you just need a couple people, you go out, you play, it's not a big deal. And I found a league. But softball, you need an entire team, and then you need a whole nother team to play against, and ideally a few other teams as well to have, real competition. So it was not something that I found. And, a lot of the leagues maybe are co-ed or whatever, they're in the non-Muslim, community. That's not something that I wanted to do. So randomly, a friend was mentioning that she couldn't meet with me on a certain day because she was going to this softball thing. And I was like, wait, pause. What? And she's like, there's this Muslim women's softball. And I had never heard of CTM. I was floored by this. So that's how I got involved. And that was really spectacular because it was something I had always sort of silently wished for, but never really verbalized. And I never thought it's something I would see in my lifetime. That sounds so ridiculous to people, but a Muslim women's softball league in my community, I just didn't see that happening. I felt that a lot of the Muslim women that I knew were not athletic. I grew up super athletic. We did every single sport you could think of. My whole family was athletic. My mom till now, mashallah, is, still athletic. And she always pushed us and put us in every activity and sport and really pushed us, like did not let us let up. And so getting to know a lot of the Muslim women, as much as I loved and admired all that they were doing, that was one element that I couldn't relate to them on. It was really missing. And so I just put it on the back burner in my own life. I just stopped doing those things. There wasn't a place for them. And oftentimes, if you're a Muslim woman and you're looking for a place to exercise or play sports or do things that is only for women, it's also very hard to find that. So in that way, this community was a real blessing for me. And I believe that was 2020. And there was a lot of healing for me in that experience. The type of sisterhood that I found at CTM on our softball team and throughout the whole CTM community was very special to me. It was something that really healed my heart from a lot of loneliness that I had felt, and a lot of, oftentimes we only bring certain parts of ourselves into a particular relationship, and we find it hard to bring our full selves in and be truly authentic. And I think in that role, playing softball and interacting with that community, I felt whole. And I think that was really a big part of why it was very healing. And I'm sure that you hear that from a lot of people. And I would be interested to hear if maybe there's one particular story that just comes in your mind that you might want to share in terms of something one of the women has shared with you that was really striking about how CTM impacted her.
Oh boy, there's a lot of stories. And I'm not quite sure which one actually I would be able to share here. There's a general theme, and I can connect with that same theme when it comes down to the fact that you lose yourself. There's a part of you that you lose as you become an adult. Many of us started adulting in our early 20s. That's still a big part of our childhood, our adolescence, right? And I, became a mother when I was 23 years old. So my entire 20s was mothering young children, right? I had 3 kids back to back to back. My husband was in residency. There was no time for me to do anything for myself. You can even ask my friends, like they would all be hanging out and I would not be able to hang out because I didn't understand or recognize or even have that awareness of giving back to myself is completely deserved, right? And so I understand that type of guilt that a woman can experience. And that is, to be quite honest, probably the number one experience that a lot of women are also feeling as well. Feeling that I wasn't able to either participate in sports when I was younger, right? Now that I'm in my 20s or my 30s or my 40s, right? Is it too late? And if it's not too late, which it's not, right? This is the space where you can come back and invest in yourself, right? So you can refuel, so you can go back and give, give a healthier version of you to your family, to your friends, to your, professional commitments. I think that is the story that I would like to share. The story of being a woman, the story of how we sacrifice so much. We sacrifice so much for all the other human beings in our lives, and yet we can't give back to ourselves without feeling guilt. It's beautiful how many women do come up to me and thank me. And oftentimes I'm puzzled by this appreciation. I truly am. And then that's when they will share with me the sorrow that they've maybe been experiencing recently, or even, years prior, the grief or the sadness, the loss, whatever that may be. Every single human being, in my opinion, they have that. They have that. When do we actually take a moment to pause and acknowledge it? And when do we take a moment to pause and work on the healing? And so what's beautiful is, yes, we came together to play sports, to invest in our physical health, right? To do this in inshallah, a safe space that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what's come out of it is a community of women healing together on whatever their grief and loss is.
And also, I think one of the really fascinating things that's come out of it is the WhatsApp group is a real fund of useful information. The things that the sisters share on that group, and the efforts that that group has made in fundraising for various causes. Mashallah, in hours, they raise thousands of dollars for a cause. They're so inspiring. As much as people hate WhatsApp groups, that group is my go-to. If I want to look something up, if I'm going to learn something, if I want to find out about a cause or an event or an activity or something to donate to, or there's so much happening on that WhatsApp group, and it's all very useful. And currently, as we're recording this episode, we are very unfortunately more than 2 months into a horrific war in Gaza and a genocide, an ethnic cleansing that we are all witnessing. And that group has been a solace for many of us, a place where we can contribute something, a real example of grassroots efforts where there's information on how to call elected officials, letter writing campaigns, update yourself on the history, learn, teach others, speak out about this cause, support somebody who's been marginalized because of supporting Palestine or whatever it may be. There's always something there that's useful. The grassroots work being done in that group it's really extraordinary, and I don't want to underestimate that. And I want to I'm coming up to a point here that I want to make, which is one of the things that was very striking for me when I joined the CTM community, and I've never told you this specifically, is, and for those watching us on YouTube, I actually have my first jersey from my softball. I have 2 jerseys from our softball. So I'm showing it here. It's got my name on the back and my number. And I was really struck by the Palestinian flag on our jerseys. And you offered that as a suggestion. It was optional, and most of us, most people opted to add that to their jerseys when we had the jerseys made. And it's been a consistent theme throughout many of the sports that I've seen, that people have that. And I was really surprised by that. And I have to go back and say, this was 2020. It was before the 2021 war in Gaza. It was before the awful, genocide we're witnessing today. Of course, the brutal occupation was ongoing. Of course, the cause of Palestinians was a very important cause that needed to be championed. But at that time, I was not commonly seeing the average Muslim person, especially if they were not of Palestinian descent or not married to a Palestinian or not best friends with a Palestinian, championing this cause really in any way, even as small as putting the flag on their jersey sleeve or wearing a keffiyeh or putting a Palestine pin or whatever it may be. And I'm curious how you came to be so interested in and so concerned about the cause of the Palestinians.
So I think one of my core values is justice. I think it's incredibly important to, again, utilize our privileges and seeking out opportunities in serving the voiceless. When it comes to the Palestinian cause, this oppression, the genocide, this has been happening for 8 decades, right? So as you shared, it's nothing new. Now, why does it, strike a chord for me in particular is because of the Palestinian people in my life. My husband's best friend is Palestinian. One of my best friends, she is Palestinian. And so I have learned so much about the Palestinian people, about the Palestinian culture, about the Palestinian struggle through these individuals in my life. And furthermore, unfortunately, the sad reality is that what is happening in Palestine is also happening in India. And I am South Asian. The same blueprint in terms of what the Zionists use towards ethnic cleansing, that India is actually starting to do the same thing with the right-wing group of Hindutva, right? And so we have to get ahead of the game as American citizens, right? If we have these privileges, we have to empower ourselves and do something about it. And so even talking about this, it riles me up. There's this anger. And also there's this feeling of sometimes hopelessness and helplessness. And then at the end of the day, we have hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is given to us that we can serve some sort of justice, right? That we can advocate for the Palestinians, for individuals all around the world who are oppressed. So Palestine, in my opinion, is a symbol of courage and bravery, right? A group of resistant fighters, right? So this is in regards to all the people who are oppressed around the world, that they are fighting these injustices on a daily basis. Something that had happened to me when I was denied the opportunity to play on my high school basketball team. And it came down to the fact that, unfortunately, they would not allow me to wear sweatpants, blue sweatpants that I wore throughout middle school basketball. And they had said that, no, you have to wear the tights because according to IHSA rules, you have to wear shorts. And if you would like to wear the tights, then you can wear the tights. We'll do that for you. And I was angered by the situation. Why is this so unfair that I won't be able to play a sport that I love? And there was a part of me that silenced myself. I actually said, no, thank you. I guess I won't be able to play. That was it. I really didn't even make a big deal about it. I didn't even go and talk to my parents about it, right? And I said to myself, it just wasn't meant to be. So when we talk about justice, right, I felt that I was unfortunately denied my rights to play just a simple sport. But that simple sport of being not able to, have equitable rights like any other American, citizen, it really ticked me off. And I held it in and I internalized, and subhanAllah, I think through that anger, because I think anger is such a powerful emotion, right? There's all of these other experiences that I was able to learn from and reflect from. That's where BBFIT came in, right? That's where CPM came in. That's where fighting for Palestine and all the individuals who are oppressed around the world came in.
Do you ever wish you had fought harder about the basketball thing and pressed it more? Well, mashallah, nowadays we see a lot of these young women fighting for those rights. So alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
It's
and
sad that
they
they
are
still have to.
incredible. Oh yeah, they're incredible. That courage and that bravery. Oh boy, I did not have that when I was their age. So this next generation, they are a generation of, mashallah, like true warriors on a different realm. They don't care what society thinks. They're gonna do, exactly what is right, what is just.
I do
So
see a lot more
remarkable
young
generation.
people fighting for justice causes like for Palestine. I'm curious if, as a South Asian, you ever get pushback from within your own community saying, why are you so vocal about Palestine? Or there's Kashmir and there's other, issues. How come you're not, how come you're just focusing on Palestine?
Yes. So, I do get some side messages, to be quite honest, especially when it came to like our Quran khatams that we've been doing on a weekly basis. Initially
Can you
it
tell
was
us a
for
little bit about
Philistine.
that?
Oh, sure. So as you shared, right, the CTM Athletics WhatsApp group, it's not just a medium to communicate what our programs are, what our upcoming, activities are. It's more than just that. I want this to be a space of action. Action meaning doing good. And whatever situations or circumstances or tests that we are experiencing, I hope collectively we come together, right, to do something about it. When it comes to the Philistine issue, it's been going on for 8 decades. There's been a lot of frustration. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of us are doing a lot, right, behind the scenes. And it's exhausting. And so, another teacher of mine, the Mariam Salman, and I got to give them shout outs because, they are individuals, right? These are women of God, mashallah, right? Like, and she gave me such good advice, and she had shared that we have to have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan, that we have to have 100% hope that He is going to, inshallah, find the resolve in all of this, to be patient, to be truly patient in all of this, and to do what we can, right? Do what we can. Don't be ignorant and just ignore. Do what we can with the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us with. And so that's where these Quran khatams came. Whenever someone passes away, we will try to do maybe a Quran khatam. However, with this regard, with the Philistine issue, I felt a source of hopelessness, truly. And the only way I was actually able to live out my day-to-day routine in life was through Quran, reciting Quran. That's what brought me peace. And if we could do, khatams on a weekly basis, to be quite honest, it breaks my heart that this is week 10. We started this, back on whatever, October 7th week. And breaks my heart that we're still doing these khatams. Like, mashallah, it's been beautiful, but it also breaks my heart that this has been happening, right? 8 decades plus 10 weeks of genocide.
It's been beautiful to see the community come together. These couple hundred women come together, everybody chipping in every week, reading a juz so that we could complete a khatam every week and then gathering for the dua. That gives you hope.
Gives me hope. And subhanAllah, I was reflecting on this, and this is maybe Allah's way of also telling us to come to His book, recite His words more regularly, right? Recite it in a way where it comes off your tongue so eloquently, and reflect in His words. Typically, I reflect in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, usually in Ramadan a lot. I won't lie about that, right? And this is the first time where I've been reading the same juz over and over and over again. And there's so many ayahs that are actually about Musa alayhi salam. And so I've been reflecting on those ayahs over and over and over again. And so through this unfortunate atrocity that is happening to the Palestinian people, understanding that why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, not stopping this? Why is this ongoing? Why is this Why is this a test that they have to be experiencing? Why am I not going through this, right? I've spoken to you about this too, Dr. Rend, like the survivor's guilt. Recently, I celebrated a birthday and I was thinking to myself, I'm celebrating 43 years and we have children who are not even making it to their first birthday.
Yeah, subhanallah. I mean, I think we're both really overcome by the emotion of how hard it's been to witness this genocide. And I do commend you for helping many of us refocus and encouraging us to think about how we can, what we can give, how we can dedicate, what we can dedicate to this cause. And speaking about your birthday, I found it beautiful and admirable that you chose to gather everybody together. And rather than just having a normal birthday celebration, you had a big group of women who came together to do some advocacy for Palestine. And that's very unique. I really haven't seen anyone do that. And we all got together and wrote letters to elected officials and expressed in creative ways something related to Palestine, whether it was poetry or people made artwork or shared stories or experiences. So it was very uplifting. We made dua, and yes, it's small. It's not everything, but these are the small, consistent efforts that we can uphold. And I will say that was in sharp contrast. And I don't say this to judge or to throw shade on anyone. I want to be very clear, but it was interesting to me that somebody was sharing with me another event that they attended that same weekend and lamenting that I couldn't be there because I was busy with this, with attending the program you were hosting for your birthday, or that your sister was hosting on your behalf. And they were saying, oh, you missed this really great event. It was a beautiful party. They had this, they had that. And I thought, wow, that group of people was just having a regular party, and they were not mindful of the Palestinian genocide. And yet this other group was focusing all of their efforts and all of their time in this party to, to try to do some advocacy for Palestine. And it made me feel so grateful for my community and my friendships and the people around me, because these are my people. You are my people. This is how I want to live, with purpose. I cannot go and mindlessly party somewhere without having any remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or any remembrance of someone else who's suffering, and just feel great about myself. It's hard for me to do that, not because I'm a great person. It's hard for me to compartmentalize to that degree. And I don't feel good about it. And it's not in any way to fluff our feathers or say we're better than other people. Not at all. But it is nice to be around like-minded people, whether we're talking about through sports, whether through advocacy, whether through grassroots work. And one of the things that is interesting is that we're in a day now, modern times, where it's the time of the influencer. Everything is about the influencer, and that's an individual who puts themselves out there on social media or the like and shares their views or their ideas or their activities or their lifestyle with other people. And that influences those people to maybe do similar things. And you are not a big social media person, and your type of influence is more that traditional grassroots type of work. And it's really neat to see how that is still so impactful in today's world, when we might forget that the majority of the real stuff that happens is what happens behind the scenes and what happens in grassroots. And so I would encourage people who are hearing this to never underestimate the ways that you are an influencer in your own life, the small and big ways that you influence the people in your household, your friends, the people around you, and how critical the small, consistent deeds that we do are. And grassroots efforts and small group efforts are, I think, in many ways more important, or in different ways equally as important to maybe people who are. It's great that we have people in our community who have large platforms. I don't want to undermine that in any way. I myself, whenever I think I want to just disappear from social media, remind myself that having a platform is also an amana, and it's a responsibility, and I shouldn't just let it go and ignore it. I should try to utilize it for good. But I think we also have to remember that even in different frameworks and in different ways, everyone can be an influencer towards good if they utilize those opportunities. And I love that I see you doing that.
Thank you.
So having said that about the small and consistent deeds, there are a couple questions that I like to close with. And so I'm going to pose them to you. And the second one of them is kind of related to that. The first one of them is related to the hadith that you shared earlier, the 5 before 5 hadith. So I was really happy that you brought it in because I introduce it at the end of every episode because it is one of the questions I've been asking my guests, which is, from that hadith, and I'll read it again. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ advised us, take advantage of 5 before 5, your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your busyness, and your life before your death. And the question is, at this current stage of your life today, which of those 5 is what's resonating with you the most?
My health before sickness. I'm in my 40s, and some of my dear friends actually are going through some health tests as we speak. And truly, I ask myself every single day, again, that question of why not me? When is my test with my health gonna happen? Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me health. And so that's why every single day when I wake up, I go to work, I serve my patients, I come home, take care of my family. Whatever time I have remaining, I have maybe 2-3 hours, and I ask myself, what can I do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation? He has gifted me with eyes that work. He has gifted me with a mind that works. He has gifted me with limbs that work. He has gifted me with organs that work. They're all going to be witnesses for me one day. And so the health piece, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important, amanats. How are we taking care of it? And what are we doing with our bodies in serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
MashaAllah, that's very inspiring. The way that you hold yourself accountable, the way that you take account of your day, kind of leads me into the second question, which is, we talk about the things that we hope to accomplish in our life and our goals. And I mentioned earlier about the small and consistent deeds, how impactful they are. And that comes from hadith. And I'm wondering that at this current stage of your life, what are 3 things that if you do them daily, you feel that you had a good day, that you worked towards accomplishing your goals?
Okay. For sure, if I recite Quran. So if I'm able to get that in the day, that is a huge goal of mine, to do that consistently. Second thing is, alhamdulillah, I grew up in a very faith-grounded household. My parents are incredible human beings, mashallah, and prayer was a big part of our lives. And so making sure that prayer is done consistently, on time, and done with quality. So that is the second goal. And the third one is my relationships. Maintaining the relationships in my life. If I feel like I've wronged someone, I don't like going to bed feeling like I've wronged them. I personally would like to see if I could cash it out. And so maintaining relationships is incredibly important to me. And, oftentimes people think that, if you don't get into arguments with people, then, I'm sorry, I'm going to rewind. People think that, fights are equivalent to perhaps unhealthy relationships, right? And the fact is, arguments are actually, depending on how often it happens, but however, it's the fact that you have two people who are invested in this relationship, right? Trying to perhaps find some sort of compromise, trying to negotiate, right? Because they value one another so much. So those are the three things, in my opinion, that I would like to do consistently. I don't know if you're surprised if there's nothing about there about like running a mile. But I truly believe, as you shared, the people that you surround yourself with, but they're the individuals that are going to, inshallah, get you to your ultimate goal of Jannah.
I agree with you too so much about this idea of conflict, that I think that a certain amount of conflict, if done in a certain way, it can be very healthy in a relationship. And as you know, from your background in social work, that it's not the rupture that harms the relationship, it's the repair or the lack of repair. And the type of repair can actually strengthen a relationship. And that's, I think, what you're touching on is making sure that if there has been conflict, that you're working mindfully on the repair piece. And that's where often growth happens within a person individually, but also within a relationship.
Yes, absolutely. The repair of a relationship is an amanat as well. None of us want to leave this world feeling like we've wronged someone, right? And so
we hope that we don't, because that is a very tough situation to be in on the day of judgment. May Allah forgive us.
Ameen.
Another last thing I'll close with that you reminded me of when you mentioned about the way that when you get up and start your day, you try to be mindful in these various ways. And as you close your day, you try to take account of various things in an intentional way. There's something from the Sunnah that I have tried to be a lot more mindful of in my in this current stage of my life. And especially as I've developed the well circle and reflected on how so many things from the Sunnah, everything from the Sunnah is critical in our self-development and is there to better us in physiologic ways, in mental health ways, in emotional ways, and in spiritual ways, of course. But we know the spiritual, but we often don't realize the other elements. And so one of the things I've tried to be more mindful of is when I wake up in the morning to say the morning sunnah dua, Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur. All praise due to Allah, the one who has given us life after death, and it is back to him that we will return. And that is because in Islam, we believe that sleep is a form of death. And that piece of gratitude, of starting my day with gratitude. So everybody who studies gratitude, they're like, do these gratitude practices, do this. And I'm like, we don't have to bring some new artificial gratitude practice. We have it incorporated in our sunnah. And this is a small one that I find is very impactful. The first thing I open my eyes, I wake up, I try. I'm not perfect, but I try to remember to say this dua mindfully, not just robotically, and be grateful that Allah has awoken me again. I did not die in my sleep. I am awake today, and how will I honor that? And how will I try to be my best today? I will be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I will try to live the best that I can, because in that dua you say, wa ilayhi nushur, we're going back to Allah, and we want to make sure we're going back in the best state. So there's so much encapsulated in that. And what you have said today, so much of what you have said today really reminds me of living for purpose, just like that, living mindfully. And mashallah, it inspires me how you do that in your life and you hold yourself accountable. And it does not come easily. There is a lot of effort that goes into that. So thank you for inspiring me, for inspiring the CTM community, for inspiring all of our listeners, inshallah, with those gems that you've shared. It was really a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Rend. It was an honor being here.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and increase you and strengthen you and grant you steadfastness, and always surround you with people who will support you and encourage you and help you stay on the right path and living in the way that pleases him, and allow you to continue to be a source of good influence in your own sphere, in your own realm, and always be somebody who's trying to promote goodness and justice. I pray that Allah protects you and increases you in those efforts and put so many blessings and so much joy in the work that you're doing with CTM, with your family, and with your community at large. Ameen.
Jazakallah khair. And that's also one of my goals, is to make dua like you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You say, you talk to him so beautifully, so sincerely, not like robotic at all. So that is one of my goals, inshallah, is to have this conversation with our Lord. So thank you
I
for
pray that Allah
inspiring me.
blesses you with that, inshallah, and grants you that in the most
Ameen.
beautiful way.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair.
Wa iyyakum.
Walaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.